It was my experience that Mr. Trump inflated his total assets when it served his purposes and deflated his assets to reduce his real estate taxes.
That may be where it all started. Testimony from Michael Cohen. The Trump Org Probe continues. He is here with us live, the author of the book Disloyal and host of the Mea Culpa podcast. Thanks for coming back, Michael.
You're welcome. Good to see you, Ari.
Good to have you. You look at these new reports. They confirm a lot of what you have said. They confirm some of what we've been reporting here, as I mentioned. What does it mean to you, based on your knowledge of the company, that according to some sources, these indictments are coming soon, but they would begin potentially with these issues around the CFO Weisselberg and maybe indicting the company or part of it?
So I'm not so sure that the indictments don't start as early as tomorrow or Wednesday. I mean, the DA has been, very busy putting this case together. They have millions of documents. I've said this on your show before. Alan Weisselberg is not the key to this indictment. It's not Weisselberg. It's not Calamari. It's all of them or none of them. The documentary evidence is what the DA has and what they're going to be going on. You know that as well as anybody. Now, one of the things about Weisselberg, they claim, is that he's not cooperating. He's actually the opposite. He's refusing to cooperate. Well, that's okay, because right now they're in the investigation stage, and it's always easy to be tough when you're in the investigation stage. Once those indictments come in, it's a total different game. Now, what's on the line is your freedom. And based upon the allegations that are being brought against Weisselberg, against Calamari, against the Trump Organization and others, I mean, you're looking at potentially 10 years. And rest assured, the game is not stacked in your favor. And the lawyers will turn around, especially that they're being paid by Trump right now, that, stay the course, like what was told of me. Stay the course, stay on message, do what you need to do, right? Don't worry, Donald is there for you. He loves you. He's going to protect you. He'll never let anything bad happen until, of course, he forgets Alan who? Matt who? Michael Cohen who? That's exactly what's going to end up happening. And then he's going to be faced with a choice.
You're making sound points. Of course, you've lived it. I have very, very brief sound here, though, that some might have forgotten, which is so relevant because Mr. Weisselberg provided some sort of information in the investigation that touched on, as we've reported, payments that he, you, and Donald Trump arranged. This was how Donald Trump talked about that incident and Mr. Weisselberg's role. Take a listen.
100% he didn't.
Okay.
100%. He's a wonderful guy. It was a very limited little period of time.
That was a period of time where, again, not to belabor the point, but as you just accurately said, Donald Trump did not stand by you. He did, though, there publicly stand by Mr. Weisselberg when it was convenient for both of them. If there is a charge, an indictment against Weisselberg, what's going to happen in your view? And do you think Mr. Weisselberg could ever change his mind?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it's the distinction between the investigation and the indictment. And it's not just the indictment of Alan. It's the indictment of his sons, potential indictment of his sons as well. Both of them had involvement with the Trump Organization, Barry as an employee and Jack as part of Ladder Capital. But it's not just Weisselberg. You have Calamari, who's basically being looked at for the exact same allegations that are being brought against Weisselberg.
Catching people up, you're talking about an former bodyguard and executive who also is, according to the Wall Street Journal, under the same scrutiny.
That's exactly correct when it comes to having the rent-free apartments, having the vehicles, and so on, and being involved in other aspects of the Trump Organization, which the DA is seriously looking at. So on top of that, let's not forget Jeff McConney, who's the comptroller, the assistant comptroller, works specifically for Weisselberg. He's already been before the grand jury.
Yep.
So you take his testimony, you take the testimony of Jen Weisselberg, of myself, of Stephanie Winston Wolkoff, of a half a dozen other people. You couple that with the documentary evidence. Rest assured, Alan does not want to spend his golden years with his children in prison. That I can tell you for certain.
Sure. Well,
prison is not a fun
Michael,
place.
I'm jumping in again because I want to get you on another part of your experience and expertise that most people just don't have, which is why it's interesting to listen to you, whether people agree with you or not. You were a Trump lawyer for a long time. And that's a certain kind of job for a certain kind of client. I reported out and quoted accurately some of what the Trump lawyers are saying today. Can you give us any insight into what their public strategy is, what they might be doing with the DA, and how much of it is being quarterbacked or coached by Donald Trump himself? Because they're opening on a very Bill Barr-ish style, which is before we get the news or the indictments, they already have their version of why it's not a big deal, that can or cannot work. Any expertise you can bring us on that as a former Trump lawyer?
Sure. So I understand that whether it's Fischetti or Alan Futerfuss who went in to speak to the DA, none of it, Hari, rest assured, none of it is the decision making by the lawyers. It's all being orchestrated by Donald, and everybody runs around him trying to do what it is that he wants to be done in order to appease the king. And what's going to ultimately happen, he has no idea what he's facing.
Let me press you. There are folks who looked at the Mueller probe and at the beginning thought, well, Bob Mueller knows what he's doing. Donald Trump doesn't know this game. A lot of people got indicted. I wouldn't call it a success for MAGA land, but he did save his own skin, as you know. What do you say to the argument or view that Donald Trump's back at it, and with no disrespect to law school, he didn't go there, but he seems to know his way around a mix of lying and lawyering?
Yeah, well, Donald Trump's big out is the fact that there are no emails or there are no text messages because he has no email address and he doesn't text message. However, all of the documentation refers back to the boss or to him by name and so on. And yes, it's not a slam dunk since you don't have the emails from his email address since he doesn't have it. But if everything and everybody all acknowledge the same thing, that everything was done at the direction of and for the benefit of Donald J. Trump, including when it comes to the taxes, where I believe that he'll look to throw the accountant and the accounting firm under the bus, right? They all are going to then have to come out and defend themselves, leaving Trump all by himself. And eventually, this is what's going to happen as a direct result of these indictments that are going to be coming out.
All makes sense on more than one angle. Speaking to you as a witness in this very case, as someone who's provided testimony, Michael Cohen, thanks for coming back on The Beat.